story, Big Panda and Tiny Dragon. What's the symbolism behind the characters?
I guess, in a way, the little dragon, he represents, well, fundamentally, the two characters represent the two halves of my brain. With the little dragon being the, if you like, nervous, anxious, but sort of maybe playful and curious, childlike sort of thing, but the bit that runs away and you can't control terribly well. And the panda represents the sort of wise, still bit of your brain, which I believe we all have, but it's a very quiet part of your brain, so I think it's quite difficult to listen to. So because we get distracted so much, and we purposely distract ourselves so that we sort of avoid stillness in a way, so we don't hear that voice. So that's fundamentally what the two characters are. I made the panda big and fluffy because fundamentally everybody likes pandas, or pretty much everybody likes pandas. You don't hear many people hating them. So there's something reassuring, and he's warm, and you could hug him, and there's something just comforting about a panda. If you've ever seen videos of pandas, but they're just so fun, and they look so playful, and then the little dragon is delicate and sort of fragile. From an artistic point of view, they contrast well. So you've got this small, scaly, sort of dark creature, which is, gives you a good sort of aesthetic contrast between the big, fluffy, large creature. And I think also because dragons we typically see as large and powerful and wise and fierce and confident, and he's none of those things, which is, in a way, it's sort of like people expect us to be certain ways, maybe, and he's like, it's okay for him not to be all the things he's supposed to be. He's like almost the opposite of everything he's supposed to be, but he's still great, and I still love him, so,
We love him too.
Oh, so that's great, yeah. That's basically it.
So when you were writing your book, did you just have the overall story first and then start playing around with character design? So was it always going to be a panda and a dragon, or were there any other ideas when you were creating?
No, it started off actually as an Instagram rather than a book. So when I first did it, I had no intention of making a book. It was just, I just did these pictures just for fun. I had no intention of making any money or anything. I just thought that fundamentally they were good ideas, and that they should be spread around in an easy way. Sorry, I forgot your initial question.
Yeah. So did you have the idea for the story? So you did have it before the characters?
Oh yeah, basically. I think I originally was going to do it with humans a few years before I did it. But I think I chose animals because weirdly they're slightly easier to relate to. You'd think that it would be humans, but I think that if I'd have done it about a little girl and an old man, that would be weird. A lot of people think that's very strange, and maybe young men couldn't relate to that very well or something. I don't know. So anyway, I just decided that animals they're sort of neutral. We don't necessarily, we can somehow put ourselves into the persona of the animals better than we could put ourselves into the persona of humans, was my thinking. Whether that works, who knows.
I think it works well because animals are a plain canvas. You can't really pinpoint characteristics, so you can just choose what you want.
It's not good at all.
Yeah.
Have you ever changed the ending of a story because of something that happened in your life? Or do you actually plan the endings of the stories at all?
The three books that are stories, I do plan the endings. I've read quite a lot about writing theory, as it were, and it seems there's two types of writers generally. There's people who plan stories quite thoroughly, like say J.K. Rowling, her stories are apparently very, very carefully planned. And there's other writers who just go, and they just start writing and see what happens. And I find books without satisfactory endings annoying. I don't really like books where the end just sort of peters out, and I get the impression maybe they didn't plan it very well. So I plan the endings, not in great detail, but I like to have if you like, a closing scene in my head of how the book will finish, and I want to think that people will read the last page, the last few pages, and feel satisfied. And I like it not to be like a chocolate box ending. Like a happily ever after sort of ending, because I don't think life is like that. So I like the ending to be maybe a little bit bittersweet, so that it's positive, but everything didn't go as we wanted it to necessarily, to try and illustrate the fact that life doesn't go as you want it to, but that doesn't mean it can't be still a good thing.
It's more realistic that way.
Mm.
So I noticed the ending in your last book, Following the Moon, was kind of bittersweet but more happy. And I noticed that you started experimenting with theme colors. So the 3 books were more of the same color palette, and this one was darker and kind of mystical.
Mm.
So I wondered if you in the future will experiment more with colors.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted the most recent book to have like a very slightly magical quality to it, without putting magic in it. Obviously, it's got talking animals, which are fundamentally magic. But yeah, I wanted it to have a very slightly fairy tale, sort of just a slight atmosphere of that, and I wanted it to all take place over the course of like a very, very short space of time, and there's lots of night in it, as you say, which creates a lot of darkness, so from the pure point of view of the book's plot, it requires a lot of darkness, but also, you know, I spend a huge amount of time drawing pictures. Some of the pictures take a long time, so just for myself, I like to keep it interesting. So that's why I use so many different art styles, and why I change the palette of the books, you know, to use different materials and keep it fun for myself, and use different inspirations.
Understand that you can get a lack of inspiration with the same kind of characters. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, you experiment with the cat and then the dark.
Yeah, exactly. And also because, and I like to fundamentally explore emotion, I guess, and how to deal with emotion. And the panda and the dragon are not very suited to explore certain emotions. Neither of those characters are prone to anger, for example. You don't really see, you know, fury in them. So if I introduce, say, a tiger, I can show anger, or you know, nihilism. I don't know if, you know, like hopelessness, if you like. Yes. Yeah. Though the character's not necessarily suited to show that total hopelessness and a wish to die, as it were. So I might bring in another character for that, and it makes it again more interesting for me, and so on.
I agree.
No.
While we're on the topic of the art, we've seen you work with multiple mediums, and I was wondering which one is your favorite, which do you feel the most comfortable in, and do you feel that you can sort of express different emotions with different art mediums?
For sure you can. Yeah, I really like what's called sumie. Have you heard of that? It's sort of Japanese brushwork with brushes and black ink. I really like that, but it's a real art form, you know. So I'm not fantastic at it. The one I perhaps use the most often is pen and ink and watercolor. So I draw the pictures in pencil, then I would go over them in ink. I sometimes use you know, traditional dip pens that you dip in ink and then draw with, because they give a very organic line as opposed to more technical pens. And yeah, then once I've done the pen and ink drawing, I paint into it with watercolors. That's probably the most common thing I use because it's very versatile, and you can get lovely feelings, and you can create a big range of pictures with it. I think with regard to putting different emotions in this book, for example, there's a scene on a raft where they sort of get upset, and so you can use like paint spatter and like dark colors and other tricks to try and convey emotion into the art. Or maybe in the wolf book, the Following the Moon book, where the wolf is starting to fade out, I might use light pencil work to try and add a transparency to the work, or to make it feel more fleeting and less permanent. That's the plan.
Did you always see yourself as both an illustrator and a writer, or did you experiment with only being a writer without illustrations?
I've always done both, really, since I was very little. I used to write my own. I don't think you have them here. They're called Mr. Man books. No, they're these little books, and they're just about like Mr. Nosy, and it's a very small book about Mr. Nosy and how he gets into trouble being nosy, and then Mr. Strong, and he goes around eating eggs and lifting up heavy weights, and very English, I guess. Anyway, and I loved these books. I had the whole set. There's about this many, and I used to make my own little Mr. Man books up, and I used to draw the men and write the text. And I used to do comics a lot. I used to get a comic called The Beano. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's another English comic. And I used to love it, and I used to copy the characters. Then I'd make my own comics. And comics are. This is essentially what these are graphic novels, but like sort of, I guess, in a slightly different form. But it's basically what they are. And I think the combination of art and words, you may be able to deliver a slightly different experience to just the words or just the art. I think if I could write music and add that to it, that would add another layer to it.
They complete each other.
Yeah, exactly, and they just keep enhancing one another, I guess, until you get essentially like a film or something like that.
So you mentioned in one of your interviews and now that you would like a soundtrack with your books to go with. What would be that soundtrack? And is it the music that you normally listen to, or would you pick specific songs?
No, the music I normally listen to would be horrific compared to that. No, I quite like quite dark, heavy, sort of industrial music. So I listen to it when I draw the pictures, but it would be, or it wouldn't. But I like simple, melancholy piano music. I play piano a little bit, not terribly well, but I play. I try to play music in like minor keys, sort of sad. I'm quite into sadness and bleakness. That's why my characters just wander through these empty, deserted landscapes endlessly. I don't know really why. I like the ideas of loneliness and abandonment and things like that. I know it sounds very negative, but it's kind of, there's something beautiful about it at the same time. So I would put that sort of music to it, that very simple, minor sort of bass piano, or maybe it's like the similar thing, but maybe on guitar or something like that, but very quiet and gentle and sad.
Are you open to the idea of creating a book that would match your music taste, maybe?
I do. I've actually written probably about 20 books. The other books that I write are all very, very different. They're not published, the other books, but some of the other books, it sounds odd, but they're like I would write science fiction, quite violent science fiction, oddly enough, which don't generally tell people about because they, no, you can't do that, you know. So, but yeah, I've worked on graphic novels as well that are much darker, and that sort of music would be much more in keeping with it. But yeah, none of my other work really got popular. Just these, unfortunately. Yeah.
Could you maybe name a few bands that you listen to?
Oh, I like Slipknot.
Thank you.
Rammstein. I like some Norwegian black metal. That sort of thing.
And that.
Yeah, Bosom and yeah, Dark Throne and yeah, that kind of thing. Gojira.
They're playing in Zagreb in a few
No.
months, so yeah.
Oh, we'll have to come back. Yeah, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, 9 Inch Nails.
We're a bit similar.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. We'll have to go out. Yeah, listen to some music.
So did anyone ever come up to you with tattoos inspired by one of your books or something? I see you also have tattoos, so you must be a fan. So did you see something like that maybe?
Did someone ask me?
No, did someone come up to you with tattoos inspired by one of your books?
Oh yeah, loads. I've never actually met one in person, but I get a lot of emails with people sending. Some people ask permission. Some people want to pay me, like, which I don't. You know, I don't let them pay me. Yeah, they just want. I think it acts as reminders for them, particularly ones about loss. You know, if maybe they've lost family members or people important to them, so they get tattoos of the little tiny dragon holding a dead bird or something like that. Yeah, so actually loads, probably just the photographs I've had, probably about 50. And bear in mind, a lot of people probably wouldn't bother contacting you. So yeah, a fair amount, yeah.
I want to touch on the topic of characters again a bit. Is there a specific reason for why you choose the characters that appear in the Kakuta Zen, for example, like the cat or the tiger or the crow? Like, is there a reason why you chose them?
Generally a combination of one that I felt that they were suited to display the emotion. So like it's easier to show anger with a tiger, say, than with a rabbit. So I would, yeah, that's one of the main reasons. And just generally creatures that I like as well. I've liked drawing crows. They're, you know, we get a lot of crows around where I live and they scream and like, they sit on, you know, bits of old wood and like, and they just, they look, I don't know, there's just something appealing about crows. So I just wanted to draw a crow. So yeah, a combination of those two things. Either they're very suitable for the emotion in question, or I just think they look nice.
Pa ovako, ja sam radila na tri knjige, na prevodu 3 knjige i naravno da me privukao što se tiče stilski i pisanja, ali prvenstveno prekrasnih ilustracija. Mislim da je ovaj James i njegovi radovi su onako jedno cjelokupno djelo koje možda na prvu izgleda kao, znaš, ono grafički roman, to ćemo brzo pročitati, ali u principu to su sve djela koje imaju jednu dubinu. Koliko god to bila nekakve ono basic i jednostavne misli, ali to su vrlo često misli koje mi svi kroz ovaj svakodnevni život prelako zaboravljamo. Ilustracija vas zapravo tjera da zaustavite se na svakoj stranici, da razmislite malo o liku, da razmislite malo o situaciji, dakle da zapravo uzmete si vremena dok to čitate i to sigurno doprinosi drugačijem razumijevanju djela.
I smatrate da su njegove poruke univerzalne ili samo za praktične situacije?
Ja mislim da su univerzalne i možda je to upravo ovo što vam je James sada u razgovoru s učenicima rekao, to je jedan dio promišljanja života i način na koji on promišlja neke situacije kroz koje on prolazi, tako da mislim da su definitivno univerzalne poruke, a može biti da je upravo u tome leži razlog što i mlađi i djeci, iako su ovo prvenstveno knjige namijenjene odraslima, zapravo prepoznaju vrijednost. Djeca su nekako uvijek bliža nekoj istini, nekakvom bitku.
You know, seeing the effect that the book has had on people is really very rewarding, because I think when he finishes a picture, he'll scan it, put it up online, and then you don't get to see a huge amount about what happens to the people who've read it. It just kind of disappears. But when you actually get to talk to people about, you know, whether they're enjoying it and how they've found it, it's very nice to see. Makes it much more real.
Would you change anything about the approach that James has with his public or his personal art?
Oh, I don't think so. It's all things that is very new to us, and so it can be quite difficult because you're very much out of your comfort zone. But I think you just say yes, crack on, and get on with it, and hope that you don't make an idiot of yourself.
Could you point out your favorite part or favorite question, something that you like the most?
Oh, I sort of liked how, I don't know, open-minded you were to the ideas I was talking about. So that's a really nice thing. So, yeah. And I don't know, you all seem so relaxed, and I'd be used to, in an English school, the children would be much more nervous. I don't know why, but they just are. So the fact that you were also relaxed and welcoming, I really liked.
You plan on coming back or visiting some other schools in Croatia?
You'd have to ask Adriana, my editor. I think she would like me to come back, yeah. I would like to come back. It's a nice place to visit.
You will.
Oh, there you go.
I expect you.
So yeah, there we are.